There we go. How you all doing? Hope everyone's good. I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah, ready to draw. Okay, male subject, some tricky poses today. I think today's going to be as much about diagrammatical drawing as opposed to tonal drawing. We can talk about that some more as we go. Let me know if there's any issues with the feed. You know the drill. Cool. All right. I'm going to get going. First pose, I will change the camera, of course. There we go. I think I'm going to start with a 15. Yeah. For those drawing along who have access to the reference, I think what really interested me with this pose is the it's kind of the upper torso, especially the relationship of the arms to the rib cage and some of the arm shapes. Kind of want to try and capture some of that if I can. All right, let's get cracking here. Okay, let's find our large idea for what's going on with the rib cage and the pelvis. Got a lot of extension on this side. And interesting the way his head's coming forward. And the clavicle, you can see where the pit of the neck is right here, the manubrium. Look at the way that that clavicle kind of goes up in an S shape. Like that. This one too is definitely pushing back that way. Sternum. Arch of the rib cage is going to be sitting roughly in there. That will get us in the ballpark. Yeah, a lot of compression where the rib cage meets the oblique here in this area, then coming down, obviously down the iliac crest to the aces, coming down this way, then inguinal ligament going down to touching at the pubic bone. Some extension on this side. All right. Got this kind of thing going on. Navel is about here. Got this kind of thing going on, right? Then this leg coming towards us. So we've got some foreshortening going on there. Knee, tibia coming down this way. I'm probably only going to suggest it. I want to really focus my energy on more the upper torso, but let's just get into a large idea here. That kind of thing going on. Matilda. This is probably like 15, I would say, give or take. This arm coming down in this direction, actually going, I would say, just very, very slightly away from us. And the forearm kind of sitting in here. Whereas this arm, head of the humerus, is going to be about here. This arm is going back this way. And then the forearm is coming up like this. Kind of crazy pose. Something like that. Sternocleidomastoid obviously attaching at the manubrium. and that's kind of coming this way. You get a sense that his ear is about there. Something like that. Okay, let's find our pectoral. So obviously that's coming down, deltoid's coming down this way. Pectoral muscle sitting in about here. Long stretch on this side. Upper arm, tricep, and that's sitting there. And this is coming slightly towards us. Kind of sitting in there. Yeah, that'll do for now. You see that there's a hint of the latissimus here coming down. Then our rib cage sitting in here. Actually, this is kind of cut in a bit more, like about there for the oblique. Yeah, definitely going to be thinning up his waist a little bit here. Same thing on this side, the oblique's actually sitting out here. And then coming into rib cage, and then the latissimus coming up this way. And then we've got the bulk of the tricep sitting in here, and then we kind of come down to the joint of the elbow. Something like that. Got the overlap here. And this hand is sitting in here, something like that. Okay. So serratus is sitting in there, same thing, they're just peeking out here. Tend to try and work quite quietly on those types of details. And obviously, for those of you with the reference, he's wearing shorts, just sitting, the belt line is sitting about there, right around where the asus is, right? They call the asus the belt line. That's kind of like the reason why is, you know, undergarments or, you know, shorts tend to hang at this point. From the asus, which we know is there, we've got the tensor fasciae latae sitting in here, coming down this way. Sartorius also kind of coming down this way. Rectus femoris sitting in here. Something like that. As I said, I really want to see what we can do with this. This area here is kind of what interests me, so that's what I want to kind of get into. So, let's see. Let's find the edge of the pectoral. Okay, so here's a little observation for those of you who have the reference. And this is kind of interesting. Look at the way the pectoral kind of comes up and then it dips out slightly there, and then it comes back in, and then across to where it attaches at the humerus. This little dip right here, or this little bulge, very, very subtle. That is due to a much smaller muscle that is pulling, which I am currently forgetting the name of, but it doesn't really matter. Deltoid sitting in there, and then that's meeting up with the trapezius, which is sitting kind of here, something like that. So let's see, we've got the mass of the bicep kind of sitting in there, coming around in this way. And then tricep sitting in there. Forearm. Sitting there. And then he's got his fist kind of clenched here. Something like that. Hey Chris, how you doing? Artistic Spartans. Hello Richard, do you have any tips for better line control on a pen display? I draw with my shoulder, which helps, but are there different ways I should be holding my stylus? It's a good question. You know, you're kind of, obviously, although someone did comment just the other day on one of my videos about how they were able to achieve the overhand, like the way I'm holding the pencil here, they were able to achieve that with the stylus. I haven't tried in a while, but when I did try, I didn't have too much success with that. The stylus is kind of limited in how much it will let you go off axis from the tip. But honestly, I think a lot of that stuff comes down to practice, right? There's, also, you know, I think you're gonna have a pretty hard time replicating on a Cintiq. Also, you know, there's a difference between using a stylus on a tablet and using a stylus on a Cintiq display. And if you're on a tablet, I'm afraid you're going to be seriously restricted on what you're able to do. It's funny, you know, the whole Cintiq style or tablet kind of discussion about the pros and cons. I actually really enjoyed working on tablets when doing like environment paintings, like small sketches, because you could keep the image small on the screen and you could work on it in such a way that felt kind of right, but your level of accuracy was quite low. Whereas the Cintiq obviously gives you a lot more, you know, dexterity. Juliano, you're my inspiration. I learn a lot from your videos. Hug from Brazil, thanks. She said, oh, you're so welcome. That's great to hear, really. Yeah, that's good. That's why we're here. Just want to try and help some folks. Where are we at? 13 minutes. So I guess my question is, how much further do I want to go? I kind of explored what it was that I wanted to as far as this relationship. Like, you could keep going, obviously. But for a warm-up, I think I'm somewhat satisfied. All right, we'll just go for another minute or two here. Yeah. And Mia's sitting about there. That leg's then going away from us in that direction. And yeah, he's got shorts on that are sitting kind of here. And then on this side, doing this, kind of following the form. And then, yeah, it's pretty much going to do it for this one, I think. Cool. All right, 16 minutes, 17, close enough. Jeffrey, hi Jeffrey. I'm able to use overhand grip on iPad Pro with genuine Apple pens and brush packs. That's great. Yeah, look, it could very well have come a long way since I last tried. Velvet Steps on Twitch. Hey, you've worked in the animation industry for 30 years, question mark. Yeah, longer than 30 years now, probably about 35. I started in 1987, and I was 15 years old. So there you go. Yep, long time. How do you feel about proportional dividers for checking after the fact? Emmy, I'm not sure what you mean by proportional dividers. That could mean several things. If you want to clarify, I'd be happy to give you my 2 cents. As you know, I'm not afraid to share my opinions. Okay, let's reset the clock. We're moving on to the next pose. Nice back pose, this one. So let's see what we can do. All right. Let's do another 15. Now there's a subtlety to this pose which we really want to try and kind of achieve, and I mean like a subtlety to the relationship between the upper and the lower torso. He almost looks like he's staggering after a few drinks, right? Like, he's kind of got that feeling to it. And then this arm is coming back towards us this way. And then the forearm going out like that. Interesting kind of placement of the feet too. Trapezius is going to be sitting in about there. How's the coffee? Tea, Noah. Tea. I only drink coffee in the mornings. It's late afternoon here, and not because of the way caffeine affects me. I just usually only drink 1 cup of coffee a day. Okay, scapula is going to be sitting about here. Emmy says, I think they're called space dividers in the UK. Emmy, I'm really sorry. I'm not sure what you're talking. You were talking about, like on the drawing, like in my art box. I'm sorry. Space dividers, proportional dividers. I'm lost, I'm afraid. Richard's 2 cents, $20 US. Nice one, Jeffrey. Okay, scapula. It's going to be sitting roughly about here. Sacrum is going to be about here. Iliac crest. Yeah, legs are doing something weird, because usually when we would normally have a very strong supporting leg, but this leg, which is his supporting leg, is kind of, it's off axis, you know. He's clearly in the middle of movement. They captured him, you know, halfway through, moving probably from one pose to the next. So rib cage is going to be coming up this way. Somewhere in there. And then this other leg is off the ground, and it's kind of going away from us in this direction. And then the calf coming down like so. Yes. So a strange kind overall, you know, center of gravity, let's say. But I think it's a fun pose. You can see the oblique sitting on top of the iliac crest there. And then coming in the passage of the rib cage up here to our scapula, which is sitting there. Deltoid. And then we can see the tricep coming out this way. And sitting there. And the forearm going away from us here. Come back to that. Let's hop along to this side. Oh, before we do, occipital ridge is probably sitting about here. And let's see a peak of the ear right there on that side, and the ear is about there. It's a wooden tool for gauging proportion. Thank you, Emmy. I've never used one, so I have no opinion on it, other than I do have an opinion on it. I have a problem with it. You did ask. And here's why. If you start using that method of measurement, what you end up doing is you end up basically copying a series of shapes, and there's a very good chance a part of the measurement part of your brain is going to switch off or switch gears to being a slave to the caliper, right? We're not, it goes against the whole spirit of the way that we're drawing here, in my opinion. Look, if you find value in it and it works for you, I would say great. If you're asking me whether you should go to the investment of buying one, I would say no. Because we really want, we want to be, we don't want to just be copying a series of shapes that we're seeing, right? We really want to be kind of building and constructing form and mass in the same way that a sculptor would. Now, I'm going to get the follow-up, yeah, but sculptors use them. Well, I don't think it would serve us well in this type of drawing. That's just my opinion. So lumbar muscles coming down, moving up the form. You can actually see ribs very slightly in here. We can see the trapezius kind of coming down this way. We've got quite the turn on the spine here, right? Doing something like that. Something like that. Okay, let's come back over here. Let's just have another look at this. So, tricep. It's going to be sitting in there, then the deltoid. Something like that. You can see the system of the hamstring sitting in there. Calf sitting in here. Coming down this way. You can see our Achilles tendon coming down off this fascia, coming off the calf. Achilles tendon coming down to the heel, sitting in there, and then our foot. Okay. Velvet Step says, in your opinion, how is the industry currently? I've heard some say it's getting harder for animators to get a job. If it's true, is it because of a lack of demands? Excuse me. Velvet Steps, that's a loaded question. And I can't tell you that I have a universal truth or knowledge on exactly what's happening everywhere. What I will say is this, that in my experience, the industry has ebbs and flows, has periods where it's really busy, and it has periods where it gets quieter, right? And these are usually like 2-3 year cycles. I have heard, I have not experienced firsthand, but I've heard that between the writers' strike and a lot of cutbacks at like big studios like Netflix, that it's not great right now, that's not to say it will always be like that. But yeah, like I think it's tricky. Like studios that I know that were really busy in 2019, 20, 21 are struggling right now. Through no real fault of their own, other than just, you know, being victims of this cyclical nature. I do think the writers' strike has probably had something to do with that. But I don't think you can blame the writers' strike in its, you know, for the whole situation. I do think that you know, like I know this is now going back almost 5 years, but when I was working on Klaus, and that was like Netflix, right? And during that production, they actually had someone come in the studio and give a whole like hour-long presentation of all the different movies that were going to be happening in the next, you know, 3 to 5 years kind of thing. I'm not sure if any of those films got made, and I do know that there was a lot of cutbacks at Netflix. They made the classic mistake that you see a lot of just studios that expand really rapidly and, you know, make some very expensive decisions which don't pan out. So yeah, it's a shame. It's always one of my frustrations working in the industry, to be honest. And I haven't worked in the industry in about a year. Last year I was focusing on my own drawing and I wasn't really doing anything production-wise. But before that, you know, there was quite a bit of work out there. But it's always been a frustration of mine that it's not more consistent, you know? It's really hard when you're working in an industry like that to make long-term plans, because you just don't know what's going to be happening, you know? But it'll come back. It generally doesn't tend to last too long. I do think though, you know, one trend I've seen just generally in animation is like any industry is, you know, studios wanting, or not just studios, like, you know, the production, the major studios, they want more for less, you know? It's like salaries are very kind of up and down depending on where you are or what the project is. But, you know, gone are the salad days of the late 90s, early 2000s, when artists really could really pick where they worked and on what projects, and you could really kind of name your price to some degree. It's not so much like that for most. There's a few that that fall into that category, a few people, but not many. And you know, even the really good artists you see out of work, and or just, you know, what's always a tell for me is when an artist that I admire, or, you know, someone who works in the industry, when they're posting a lot of their own personal work on social media, it's usually a tell that they're in downtime, right? Because when you're working on productions, you really don't have time for your own work. Or as much, you know, unless you're making a really enormous effort to work on your own project at the same time, but usually production schedules make that very tricky. So I hope that answered your question. Cool. Yeah, fun pose this. So I'm glad that we did this one. I could draw this hand. There's not really much going on with it. It's kind of doing something like this. I think that kind of says it all. Yeah, cool. As I said, these are going to be leaning towards diagrammatical just because there's a kind of a lot to work out with what's going on with the anatomy and that, you know. So that's probably a good place to stop with this one. We could go in, and you know, here's the thing, for those of you drawing along, I would be probably not too keen to follow the lighting as it is. I would probably go more with a, you know, the 70-30 kind of conceptual model of lighting the form. Something like this, you know, where we do like 1/3 in shadow. Probably a cast shadow coming down here, then etc. It's probably all in shadow. You get the idea. Okay. But I really like that twist in the form. I think it's an interesting, you're reminding me of my age, Velvet Steps. Yes, 3 decades, good Lord. Crazy. All right. Let's move on to the next pose. I think the next one is even more complex still. Let's have a look. Yeah, this is going to be a challenge. Now with the pose like this, it's not that there's inherently a lot that's difficult, but the angle is tricky, right? It's a really tricky angle because we're basically looking at him sideways. For those of you who don't have the reference, he's balancing on one arm, but he's kind of suspended in midair. Yeah, if we rotated this, like, you know, 90 degrees so that he was turned, it'd be a very straightforward pose. A bit of foreshortening, but a very straightforward pose. But the fact that we have to deal with the weird angle of stuff is going to add a bit of challenge. Let's see, what are the poses after this one? Okay, I think, yeah, let's keep going with 15s. Velvet says, I love Klaus quite a bit too. If you don't mind answering, what animation work you enjoyed doing the most? I think the favourite films to work on, the films that were the most fun to work on, or the film that was probably the most fun to work on was El Dorado. It was a really nice period of time just in DreamWorks' history. The studio had settled down, if you know what I mean. Like, what had we done? We'd done Prince of Egypt, which was great, you know, great film to work on, but it was quite intense. And we also moved studio halfway through production, as I recall. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, or maybe we waited till the end. I don't remember. I feel like it was midway through somehow. Anyway, yeah, El Dorado, we'd moved into the new campus. Everyone was kind of in a groove, and the studio was running really smoothly. And everyone was kind of just getting on and having a good time working. It was a fun project. The animation was fun, especially coming off Prince of Egypt, which was you know, quite difficult and quite intense. So yeah, I would have to say El Dorado, probably. Yeah, good times. Got to be careful here because his foot's coming down this way. Actually, I'm going to move his butt up here. That should give me enough room because that foot's sitting about there. Okay. So manubrium sitting about here, clavicle coming up this way, coming this way, head of the humerus is about here, and then this supporting arm that's supporting all of his weight is sitting about there. Sternocleidomastoid coming up this way. So clavicle, pectoral muscle coming this way. Did something like that. We've got obviously the arch of the rib cage, which is going to be sitting in here. Asus. Something like that. So deltoid, trapezius, deltoid, tricep, forearm, and the hand is sitting about there. This arm is doing something like that. His eye line is about here, just to give us orientation. The ear is going to be about there. Something like that. Okay. Tricep coming into the upper arm here, then bicep. Interesting, you know, head of the humerus is here. Obviously the bicep travels over the head of the humerus. The bicep is kind of sitting in this region and here. And brachioradialis coming up this way to the wrist, sitting about there. His fingers going something like that. Yeah. Oblique's going to be sitting in there. Can't really see it because of what his legs are doing. Let's get to those. So, this leg is going up this way. Knee sitting about here. And then tibia coming towards us, and then the foot is sitting about here. This is quite the puzzle. Something like that. So we got calf coming towards us. Doing something like that. Then this other leg, the knee is coming up to about here. So once again, I'm just thinking, can't really see a lot on that side. And then the tibia going back down this way. Excuse me. And then the foot sitting about there. That's going to get us in the ballpark. It's just a rough placement of things, you know? Navel's sitting about here. Yeah, something like that. As I said, you know, if we were just rotated this, not too complex, but it being on its side just throws the brain. I'm going to get into some, giving this a little bit of clarity. Okay, it's your clavicle. You can really see the separate heads of the deltoid there, the shoulder muscle sitting in there, one there, and then the second one there. Yeah, it's really tricky. For now, that'll do. So pectoral, so the latissimus, I'm going to pull this in just a tiny bit. Latissimus coming this way, meeting up with the rib cage and coming down like so. So clavicle here, coming down this way. I feel like this guy must be a gymnast, right? Not only his dexterity, but just the way he's developed so much shoulder power. Bet you this guy does those, you know, like those, what do they call them? The hoops, or the pommel horse, something like that. possibly not the most exciting thing to watch being drawn, honestly, because it's as much a technical exercise as anything. You know, these types of things are so much harder than when we're just drawing, you know, the more standard type poses. But they're good workout material. We'll feel like we went to the gym after this. Trapezius coming down, sitting in there. And we've got just a little hint of the latissimus sitting in here and coming down rib cage this way. All right, let's keep going. Now, I do wonder about my proportions slightly. I think it'll work. It'll be close enough. Okay, so we've got all of this stacked business going on here. How do I want to handle this? So, I'm actually going to find the heel first. The heel's sitting about here. Something like that. And then the calf kind of coming this way. Knee. It would be really handy to be able to rotate this disc right now. Which I would actually, you know, if you're not kind of tied to drawing to the camera like I am, I would encourage you to flip this 90 degrees just so you can, you know, assess where you're at, so to speak. It almost be like a fresh pair of eyes. And that probably would not be a bad idea at all. Okay. Because this is a real tricky one. Something like that. Yeah, crazy. All right, let's keep going. Calf coming down. Something like that. Yeah. I definitely consider this more kind of an advanced kind of pose, you know? Like if you're just starting out, you are understandably going to really struggle with it. Hell, I'm struggling, you know? So yeah, don't beat yourself up if it's not coming together. Or maybe it is, and in which case, that's awesome. Once again, he's wearing shorts, which we can kind of see just below his navel here. The shorts are kind of coming up this way. And then going around his leg about here. And same thing on this side about there. Don't know why I picked such a difficult pose. Well, I thought it'd be fun, but you know, it's one of those ones, isn't it? 16 minutes in, you start questioning your life choices. Yeah, not easy. Okay, with that said, I might just leave it there. Tricky. Yeah, I don't really even want to carry on with this because it's not even a drawing that I'm going to be, even if I spend another 20 minutes on it, it's never going to be a drawing that, you know, that gets showcased in any way. And so my investment of time to it is going to be a lot less. In this case, anyway. Yeah, let's abandon this, huh? All right, what's the next pose? Oh, I like this one. It's another tricky angle, but I think should be easier than this last one. Cool. Sorry, I just need to check something, guys. I'm just going onto YouTube because I'm curious about something that's happening here. Do we have technical difficulties? Yes, we do. Hey, Pamela. What do you do with all your practice sketches? I have I've got different piles for different things. I'm actually going through a bunch right now. I'm going to actually be putting some on the website for sale. some of the live stream drawings and just some older drawings I'm going through right now, so I'll make a notification when that's up. But I have about, from last year's streams, I did over 1,000 drawings in last year's streams, and I have them there, and they comprise of about, I don't know, about 6 inches maybe of stacked paper. And so yeah, they need to be dealt with. I don't know what I'm going to do with them all, to be honest. At some point we're going to have to move this year, I think, and I'm going to be doing some pretty brutal culling, I think. It's safe to say. All right, let me let's go on to the next pose. He says these sessions are really paying off. Best 3 sketches in quite a while. Looks like someone else drew them. That's great. Good for you. Good for you. I'm glad to hear it. Really. Thank you. What do you recommend we do with ours? Brutally cull? Question mark, says Pam. I would generally keep some, so that you have like the rings of a tree. You can look back and you can see where you were at particular stages of development. I think that is useful. But look, inevitably there's going to be just drawings that are simply not worth keeping, right? Like, let's be real. I don't know, light a barbecue with them, light a fire, or recycle them. That's I don't tend to recycle mine just because I don't really want them out there, if you know what I mean. So I burn all mine. Yeah, it is a reality, isn't it? I think we're just going to keep going with these same length poses because it's kind of working. All right. Now we've got some really nice dynamics here that I want to try and bring into the drawing. Let's find our spine coming down this way to our lower torso, which is about here. Got to be careful here. We've got some tricky foreshortening. This is going away from us. The rib cage is going away from us, but the lower torso is kind of coming towards us. So at this point here, we do have to think about, you know, this is going away, this is coming towards. I'm going to have to deal with that. It's not that it's so much even coming towards us, in as much as if we think of in a series of boxes, you can kind of see a plane here, kind of where the buttocks, you know, the spine coming down, right? Meeting up with the sacrum, which is about here. And then coming down this way into the gluteus. I know this is really rough, but there's a turn of form here. So under here, this leg that's coming towards us, so iliac crest is about there. Doesn't help that he's wearing these trunks and there's a lot that's obscured from view, but it's okay, we'll figure it out. And then this leg is, yeah, this leg's coming towards us here. So, yeah, oblique is sitting there, probably tensor fascia lateral, coming into this leg that's, yeah, coming towards us. Knees about there, the turn is about there. So we go from the side of the leg to the back of the leg. That will do for now. Let's keep going. And then this tibia coming down this way. And obviously this is really foreshortened. All right, let's keep mapping. Rib cage is that coming down there. Buttock is sitting there. This leg going this way. Going away from us. And the calf going down that way. Okay. And the heel of this foot is probably about here. Something like that. That'll do us for now. It's a placeholder. Heel is about here. This calf coming towards us about there. Right, let's move back up the form. Let's see what's going on up here. Okay. So it's actually quite a bit more foreshortened than I had it originally. Probably sitting about there. Yeah. Scapula. Sitting about here. Tricky, 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 tricky. Something like that. Whereas this scapula is probably about here. Because this arm is kind of coming back towards us slightly, but not. It's really hard to explain. Forearm. Rib cage coming down. Something like that. Matilda, how do you locate the scapula? Well, there's in a pose like this, it's much harder to locate than in, you know, a regular pose, let's say. But I would be thinking kind of this like logically, like about what I'm looking at. So, you know, I see that the trapezius is kind of pushed up here, right? This arm is pushing out this way. It kind of, and then I can get a little hint of it here, right? So it kind of tells me that it's sitting in this region. But if you understand the mechanics of what the scapula is doing and how it's working with the clavicle, then you know, just by virtue of the logic of that, you should be able to at least piece it together. But in a pose like this, as I said, it's very tricky to kind of, you know, many times the scapula is just kind of screaming out at you where it is, right? It's quite a clear shape. You can see the triangle motif of it quite clearly, and it's like, okay, there's the scapula. Here we've got foreshortening. We've also got him doing something, you know, his arms are almost kind of doing this. So that's lifting the scapula up, and kind of, at least on his left arm, it's lifting it back. So it's moving towards the center line, right? Sitting in here. Whereas this one, the arm is stretched out more. We're kind of coming in this direction and then doing that. So the scapula is going to be sitting further away from the center line. So there's a lot of detective work to do with a pose like this. Also, you know, where's his head? His head is back here, right? We can actually see his ear here. So yeah, it's a tricky one on a pose like this. But generally speaking, the scapula is not too difficult to find. What's difficult though, and what also then brings another level of complexity, is obviously you've got the four muscles of the scapula, which are either under tension or extension, depending on the pose or what it is that the function that they're serving. And then you've got the trapezius, which kind of lays over, you know, one quadrant of the scapula. So, like, I could do a quick basic diagrammatical idea of what's going on. I'll do it after this, just, you know, a little 2-minute kind of thing of what's going on with the scapula. Excuse me, but yeah, it's tough, and it's one of those things of where it's really kind of pose dependent on what it is that you're going to see or how you're going to be able to see it, if that makes sense. But if you're struggling seeing it on this pose, you'd be forgiven. That would be very understandable. Okay, let's get into... We need to clarify some of these ideas, I think, a little bit more. Although, how are we doing for time? I think I can probably do it as I get into the drawing. Let's see, what is going on here? This would be really useful to not have these trunks obscuring what's going on. We got gluteus tensor fasciolati sitting in there. I think I've just got to kind of get into it. And so oblique, rib cage, latissimus coming up this way. tensor fasciolate, sitting down this way. Got a feeling that's too wide. Let's see, maybe not. Let's see. Sacrum, okay, so oblique, iliac crest. Sacrum's probably about here. So that would mean that the gluteus is sitting here, coming down to the hamstring down there. I think he's a little wide in the hip, maybe. Actually, I don't think it's too bad. I think it's that tensor fasciolate that's the offender. I think just doing that will help. Something like that. Calf, knee. Yeah, hit that like button. Don't be cheap. Not really a way to get people to support what you're doing, but you know what I mean. Please hit the like button. Thank you. It worked. Thanks, Paul. Good. Well, you know, I think that people probably get like button fatigue, because, you know, you do get to a point where you're like, if I hear one more person say like and subscribe, I'm going to lose my mind. And I do get that. I watch YouTube just like everyone else, you know. But I think people do it because supposedly it does help. I have no idea if it does or not. If I'm perfectly honest, I have to assume it can't hurt. But I gave up a long time ago trying to figure out what keeps the YouTube algorithm happy. Because it does say it's a goalpost that's constantly moving. And just when you think you might have figured out what's working on how to engage people, and that YouTube changes the rule book, and then you're back to guessing, which is super frustrating. You know, especially if you're trying to kind of grow something and do something like that I'm doing here. Doesn't help when you're just constantly meeting what feel like roadblocks. Anyway, that's all. That's not really what we want to talk about. Although chat's very quiet today. I don't know why. What's going on? tell you another thing, honestly, and this is something I've noticed on social media too. Usually a lot less engagement when drawing men than women. Yeah. From people that show up to draw, to spectators, to people that will acknowledge work that you've done, say on Instagram or whatever. If people ask you, oh, well, why do you draw women more than you draw men? Partly, if that is the case, I try to be conscious of drawing both equally, although I'm sure it's not equal. But engagement drops like a rock when you're drawing men. So there you go, true facts. I can have stats to back that up. So for all of you that say, you know, you should draw more men, then show up when they're being drawn. Because frankly, if you're not going to spend a lot of energy drawing something that no one seems to care about, it's unfortunate, but it's true. Although I do maintain that the male form is generally can be very useful for understanding large ideas about anatomy. You forget to like, it's all right. I think chat is quiet because Lulu isn't here. Yeah, you're right. Lulu, the chatterbox. Although you notice it, you know, when someone who chats a lot isn't around. It's all good. Yeah, tricky pose, huh? Another one, another tricky one. They're all pretty tricky today. Well, that was kind of the idea. I wanted it to feel like a workout. All right. Yeah, I would probably go in and lean a few things up here in a perfect world. Like that, for example. Maybe pull in to about here. Even that helps a little bit. Yeah, I'm on my fourth pencil, although these things are also very, very soft. Okay, I think I'm going to call it with this one. Yeah, so Thursday's session, you know, maybe we'll do some easier poses. Maybe I'll make it more of like a beginner session. Just suggesting where his trunks are here, about there, and wrapping around the leg here, coming across and then direction change, something like that. We actually have this gluteus, which is sitting quite tensed, like this. There's quite a lot of tension on it in there. And then on this side, those shorts are coming across and going like that. Okay, on my fourth pencil, and I might have to take a sharpening break for a minute. Let's see. The kids need dinner, so thanks and good night. See you, Emmy. Good luck. All right. Where are we at? We're at nearly an hour and a half. I spend a lot of time drawing what my teenager doesn't like, which is just about everything. Yeah, that will happen. Well, trust me, it's not lost on me that I could probably be, you know, drawing animation stuff during these streams and have a lot more engagement, but, you know, there's other people doing that. Okay, let's just have a look at what poses remain. We've got 2 left. I think we'll plan on like 2 10s. All right. So it's not the kids that need, oh, I see. I was not hungry till you mentioned dinner. Oh, Jeffrey's now getting distracted by food, huh? Don't blame Emmy. Yeah, I need to sharpen a pencil real quick, guys. Just take a minute. You can watch. If you have any questions, now would be a good time. This is probably more fascinating than the drawing. All right. I will probably need more than 1 pencil, but I'll just do 1 for now. So keep moving. Cool. So yeah, 2 10-minute poses. Let's do that. Cool. Oh, could you do the scapular demo? Yes, sorry, Matilda. Yeah, absolutely. Completely forgot. Upper torso as a simple idea, as a box, okay? Something like that. Lower torso will be sit somewhere like here. All right, that gets us in the ballpark. Let's just put a center line on here, something like that. So we've got a few things that are going on. Let's just do, so we're thinking of the scapula, and I would encourage you to look at an anatomy book so you can see the subtleties of what it is that I'm drawing here. But let's say, for example, this scapula is going up in this direction, and this one is kind of at rest. Okay, something like that. Okay, so let me just find the rib cage. Rib cage is going to be sitting roughly in here, like so. Okay, so on the scapula, obviously we've got a ridge of the scapula back here, and then we've got this little pointy bit that comes forward called the acromion process. If we were looking at it from the top, looking down on this, you would essentially see something that does something like that, right? This is called the acromion process, and then the deltoid, the clavicle meets up with this, go to the front of the body this way, and the head of the humerus sits under here, kind of coming out this way. Just keep that as a thought, right? This acromion process idea. Okay, so basically, when I'm looking at the scapula, and in many cases you'll see it real nice and clearly, in a very simple way, you'll see the outer perimeter of that. If I just come up here quickly, we've got the occipital ridge, which is where the trapezius attaches. Then the trapezius kind of comes down this way, and it meets up with the scapula, right? Something like this. That actually thins out about here, something like this. Okay, so the head of the humerus is sitting here, and that's going to be going up this way. Right. Now, there's a spine to the scapula, the ridge of the scapula, and the deltoid, the shoulder muscle, attaches to the spine of the scapula and will come up this way, connect with the humerus coming up this way, and it also attaches about 2/3 of the way along the scapula, right? So it attaches like about here and here, and it kind of does this type of thing, right? So we would see something like that. Now, there are 4 muscles also attached to the scapula: infraspinatus, supraspinatus, teres minor, and teres major. Look at an anatomy book, but suffice to say, they are influencing what's going on. Now, it's important that I think you look at an anatomy book to really understand those 4 muscles. But here's what I think is more important. At least, not more important, but more what I want to get across right now. So that acromion process is coming here. This is why you get this little pit of the deltoid, right? You get this little kind of pit right here. If you do that, you'll feel it right there, right? That's the acromion process. That's that part coming off the scapula. Okay. Point being is, the trapezius attaches to the scapula here, and then at about, I don't know what the exact measurement is, but at some point it starts its journey down this way, coming down this way like this, okay? The latissimus, which is also attaching to the humerus, is coming across, and it's doing something like this, right? It's doing something like that. Then you can see the obliques in there, etc. So then you've got the muscles teres minor, teres major, infra and supraspinatus, all of which are going to be bringing tension in different ways, right? In this area here. I think it's infraspinatus that sits in the red ridge of the scapula as well in here. Point being is, there's a lot of overlapping muscle here, right? So between, even like, the deltoid or is attaching back here underneath the trapezius. So it's very easy for it to just get super complex, right? With all of these different muscles under tension, and then the overlapping nature of them. Then on top of that, you're going to have trapezius and bicep coming up this way. And then obviously on this side, kind of more at rest. Maybe this is coming down this way, something like that. But the same thing applies. You're still going to have that trapezius muscle attaching like so. You're going to have your deltoid sitting in there, kind of like that. And then, yeah, that trapezius coming down and sitting there. Then you've got, obviously, triceps, 2 heads of the tricep, one attaching to the humerus, one head attaching to the humerus, the other attaching to the scapula, right? And then coming down this way, blah, 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 etc., etc. So yeah, so there's a lot for us to be considering when we're looking at the scapula. But that's generally what I'm looking for. Does any of what I've just said make any sense? How do we know which reference picture you're using? I'm not using a reference picture for this. Paul. I'm just winging it, which is probably obvious from the state of the drawing. Hopefully you get the point though, right? Cool. I need to do a proper scapular demo at some point. Was that wonderful? Good. I'm glad it was wonderful. It didn't feel wonderful on my end. I feel like I was kind of not really giving you the best way of the information. One thing is, I do think it's worth, like, just before we move on, I do think it's worth kind of mentioning this. Let's say we're looking at an aerial view. We're looking straight down, and let's just, for the sake of this conversation, we're just going to pop the head off, right? So imagine our rib cage is something like that, right? Neck hole, manubrium sitting here, right? Scapula, or not scapula, sorry, clavicle, collarbone, attaching at the manubrium and coming up this way, right? Something like that. Obviously it will be the same on the other side. Scapula sitting here, and then that acromion process kind of joining the party right here, or joining up, meeting up with the scapula there. That head of the humerus sitting under there, going obviously down. Spine, and then the scapula again on this side. This whole area is known as the shoulder girdle, right? And you can think of it like the wishbone system on a car. And look at the overall kind of, I guess, like triangular shapes you could say there. So it's useful to think of it in this terms, because it's very easy to look at the scapula or to look at the clavicles when you're looking at it front on, and to not think about this relationship between the scapula and the clavicle. It's really kind of useful to almost think of them as kind of like a single idea, right? Then from this view, obviously the pectoral muscles would be sitting in here, etc. That deltoid will be coming off something like that, right? Head of the humerus is here if this arm was coming out this way. About 2/3 of the way along the scapula, the deltoid attaches. Probably about the same. I'd have to look at an anatomy book. But you've got your attachment point there, and there's 3 heads to this deltoid, right? It's actually more, but there's 3 main heads. And then they subdivide. And then, you know, so on and so forth. Right, then you've got the trapezius that we know attaches to the occipital ridge of the skull, right, which would be about here, and then that's going down this way, but also the scapula, oh sorry, the trapezius attaches to the clavicle. So you've got this type of thing going on, right, something like that, with the, yeah, with the trapezius. Sorry, I'm losing my mind here. Yeah, something like that. Hope that makes sense. It does take a while. You're right, Tina. It does take a while. Gradual understanding is through repetition. It's all we're going to, so it's the only way we're going to do it, right? It's complex. It's complex. It's beautifully complex. But I think that is a really important concept to understand. The wishbone system, because it also, and I brought this up before in other demos or in other videos, but when the arm comes up, right, when the arm comes up, when you're starting out, there's a tendency to want to stretch the rib cage to accommodate that. The reality is, yes, there's a slight accordion nature to the rib cage, but this can move, right, separately to the rib cage. Right, the rib cage can stay fairly static, and you can do this. So resist the temptation of resist the temptation of stretching the rib cage to move with the arms, unless it's something you can clearly see that you want to demonstrate in your drawing. All right, we just burnt through my soft, super soft pencil here. Let me just... But I think honestly, like, I think learning anatomy like this incrementally is, and with a kind of an idea in mind, is so that you can have it, like, it can be contextual to what you are doing. It's much easier than just sitting down with an anatomy book and just trying to, you know, go through it from cover to cover. That's going to frankly be like pulling teeth. It's going to be super painful. All right. 10-minute pose. We're going over here, guys, with my rambling. Let's do it. Once again, another quite unconventional pose, although arguably a lot more conventional than what we've just been drawing. So, you know, thinking about the chest here, manubrium's probably sitting about here, that clavicle coming up this way, humerus is going to be about here. Obviously in this case we've got some severe foreshortening. But once again I'm thinking, okay, you know, I can see the scapula kind of sitting in here, right? On this side. You can see that kind of the stretch of the pectoral muscle sitting in there. And if I understand that, then I know, I'm going to know where certain things need to be, right? As far as where the latissimus are and the oblique, and understanding the mechanics of that wishbone system is really, it's everything. Well, for that part of the body. Okay, so we've got some severe foreshortening here. The wrist is actually about here. And the elbow is about here. And then this hand is sitting about there. Something like that. Tensor fasciae latae coming down, gluteus maximus coming down, meeting up with the tensor fasciae latae on this time, coming down the iliotibial tract, coming down this way. Lovely subdivider for the side of the leg. And this other arm is going way up this way. So this leg going this way, it's 10-minute pose, remember? That's more to me than to you. Okay. And the other leg is... Now I think I'm going to, for the funsies of it, I'm going to move that other leg. I'm going to push it back just a little bit. Just to help break up the silhouette a little bit. Maybe something like that. So we've got compression, we've got the oblique coming across. We can kind of see it on that side too. Ignore that. But we can see the other gluteus kind of sitting in here. Yikes. Okay. So yeah, we've got this forearm sitting in here. Eight minutes, okay. And we can see the oblique sitting there, some of the back. Yeah. Whoa. Only 30 seconds. That's fine by me. Not too enamored with this one. Yeah, Thursday will be a much easier session, or there'll be much easier poses. So, if you're new to this, I don't want you to think that this is this is what we normally would be picking. Some very tricky poses today. No, Lulu. Couple of minutes, yeah, that's right. You missed it just by a couple of minutes. A handsaw. Yes, I decided to edit what they were holding. So we'll call it a handsaw. I like that. He is in the middle of some serious woodworking. All right. Yeah, I can feel I'm starting to lose it here. Disaster. It's fine. Here's what it is. It hasn't been a ridiculously long session, and I think just mentally it's been pretty exhausting. You know what? With that said, let's do 5 minutes for this last one. Even though it's a fun pose and all the rest. Thanks for the workout. You're very welcome, Yoga. Yeah, it has been a workout. I'm knackered. I don't know which pencil to use. It's 5 minutes, right? Do we go with one of these Crayolas? No, not feeling that. Now we'll just use this. All right, 5 minute pose, last pose. Let's do this. I can also feel that I've only got like about maybe 4 or 5 sheets of paper underneath the one that I'm working on. And it's affecting in quite a negative way the drawing surface. If we were earlier in the session, I'd get more paper, but it's really not worth it right now. But as I've said before, and just for those of you who may not have heard me say it, I always like to work with, maybe close to like 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch of paper underneath the one that I'm actually drawing on. Nice padded, soft surface. It's not a nice feeling to be working on a hard board, at least in my opinion. So this arm is going away from us. Deltoid is there. Bicep. Forearm. So yeah, I'd encourage you to always have an abundance of paper underneath the one that you're working on. So this arm, you can see the way that the scapula here is pushing towards the center, right? You can kind of get the sense because the arm is kind of coming towards us, back towards us. You can even get a sense of where that dip for the acromion process is right there. You can see the deltoid kind of coming forward like this. You can see latissimus, rib cage coming down this way. Now this is the fun part. This leg is sitting about here, coming towards us, this cylinder. It's sitting in there. And then this tibia coming back this way. For those of you who don't have the reference will think that I've just lost my mind. Or maybe it wouldn't take this for you to think that, but ankle is here. Something like that, right? Toe sitting about there. Toes are like that. You can see a little bit of the buttocks sticking out there. Then we're oblique. Rib cage. Scapula, deltoid. So you're just thinking about, you know, you can think of it like almost like spheres just going away from us in space, right? Like this, all these different ideas. What is this, a retirement village? What's with this music? Stop. Something like that. And then this other leg, well, actually, hold on, let's... Oh, it's already 5 minutes. Well, let's just keep going, just because we can't leave this with one, we can't leave it legless. All right, let's just see here. This leg going away from us. And then this coming towards us. Tricky. Chat was very quiet today, Lulu, just so you know. A little too quiet. All right, hamstring sitting in here. Everyone's showing up now, huh? Towards the end? When you're not committed to drawing? All right. I actually do think I'm going to call it with this one, and that will be the session for today. Yeah, I kind of lost the plot here with the last few drawings. Just not quite working. Although, yeah, one of the hardest sets of drawings that we've had to do in a while, I would say. All right, this music. We go from retirement village to summoning Satan. Okay, so for those of you who are members that have access to the reference that are watching this after the fact, don't think your lack of presence during the live stream gets you out of having to do these drawings. All right? Mm-hmm. All right. Disaster. Bit of fun though, that one. But yeah. You're welcome, Tina. It was a great workout, wasn't it? Yikes. I was trying to will myself to first time gouache, says Volvo, but I was too frightened. Oh, I don't blame you. That's like, were you going to do it for the live stream poses? That would be a bold move. You're braver than I am. I wouldn't attempt to do these in gouache during the live stream. That's for sure. Okay, guys, it's been real. Really, for those of you arriving late, give these poses a go. Follow along to the recording. Lots of ups and downs in this session, says Noah. Yeah, it was. But you know, that's life, right? That's life. Yeah, here's the thing. We could put up 5 poses, you know, of someone going like this. Is that really what you want every session? We do some of that, a little bit, a sprinkling of that. But it's good every now and then to really, as I like to say, be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's important. Got to spend at least part of the day being slightly uncomfortable doing what you're doing, because it means you're slightly out of your comfort zone. And if you're slightly out of your comfort zone, with any, hopefully, it means that there's some growth happening or some development, pushing. That's the way I think of it anyway. So with all of that said, folks, hit the like button on your way out. You know the deal. We'll be back Thursday. I know I keep saying it and then I keep flaking on you. There will very likely be a daily between now and Thursday. I've had a lot going on in this last week with little things that have nothing to do with drawing, but have been exciting in their own right, that have basically sidetracked me. But the idea is, you know, that we will have the odd daily session and then the regulars to Monday and Thursday that you can rely on. So with all of that said, guys, take care of yourselves. If I don't see you before, I will see you on Thursday. All right, happy drawing, happy practicing. See you then. Cheers. Bye.